What you are hearing, what you are reading online, I confirm it's true, it's correct, the end is near. And when we are opening the three Italian sport pages, well, you can see it immediately. Without even understanding Italian, they are all putting the same name, the same face on their first page, and it is Thiago Motta. They have three different ways of explaining it, but they go towards the same direction. The end is near for the coach of the Bianconeri. And that's what we will speak about in today's video. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. I hope you are all doing well. Guys, I'm asking you, also today, in a difficult day, because it's a difficult day, to put a maximum of like, to continue to support the channel by subscribing, and to interact. Let me know, because I'm really curious to read you. When I'm telling you that it's difficult to speak about Juventus, we just come from a historical loss. It was since 1967 that we didn't lose against Atalanta, and also because today Champions League is back, and we know when we will hear that music, it will bring us back to that huge big elimination against PSV. Now, the three different ways of explaining the possible exit of Thiago Motta are like that. Corriere dello Sport, smottamento. They are playing a bit with a word play. Smottamento that you can possibly interpret as dismantling, or that you can possibly interpret as earthquake in La Continassa. But they're quite kind, I need to say, because they are giving Thiago Motta and Juve 10 games to decide their future. So they are quite patient. 10 games, the last 10 games of Serie A. They are speaking before the Club World Cup. On the other side, Gazzetta dello Sport is already making their evaluations. Thiago Motta, how much did you already lose? Speaking about a calciomercato, with co-openers Douglas Luiz, Nico Gonzalez, 138 million, I believe, 138 million. In terms of investment for these three players, where the values of the three players really decrease, but not only about players, also speaking, of course, about the competitions that he played in, where we lost a lot of money. Champions League, Coppa Italia, Supercoppa already eliminated, and then also the risk of not participating to the next Champions League. How much is it worth? Where you go to Tuttosport, that is going really all in. For them, it's already over. White flag in the air. Tuttosport, Motta a tempo. Motta, countdown. Gasperini is already in pole position. So we have the three narratives of the papers. Now I'll tell you, of course, my vision, why I would do it, why I would not do it, what I think about it. Ragazzi, 1.38%. That was the quote that we spoke about, unfortunately, all last week. And that quote was actually the one of the possibilities for Juve to win the Scudetto. Extremely low, really minimal quote, 1.38, that actually gave us a bit of hope. You never know what can happen. Well, these 1.38%, I want to switch it to actually the permanence of Thiago Motta to Juventus next season. So we are really there. Bottom, I think it's over. I really believe it's already over. Decision has already been taken. 1.38%, it's what I want to still leave to Thiago Motta, because only a miracle at this point could actually make that he stays also on the bench of Juve for season 25-26. Will it happen? 1.38%, guys. And you know it, I am someone that do not want to change coaches in the middle of the season. I'm not in a big favor of changing coaches, because changing coaches, according to me, means something. Means it's not going well, and it's not going better. There are absolutely no chances we are going towards a collapse. And the game of yesterday between Lazio and Udinese will absolutely not help Thiago Motta. That's not enough. We said it so many times. Entering top 4 alone is not enough. And we are not speaking about reaching top 3, reaching top 2, or the obligation to win the Scudetto. We are speaking about improvement in a lot of things. And when we are looking at the game of Atalanta, we can speak about a lot of things except of improvement. On the other side, we decreased in a lot of things. The best defense of Serie A that conceded 4 goals, and the way how, yesterday by the way, I made a video about it, so if you didn't yet, please go and watch it, because it's quite interesting to see the amateurish mistake that we did. But Gazzetta is opening with Motta sei quasi fuori. And that's probably the title of today's video. Motta, you are nearly out. Champions League is obliged, is an obligation, but it could not be enough. Juventus is already thinking about the future. The title in Gazzetta dello Sport. Look, this is what I told you already a few weeks ago, before the elimination of the Scudetto race against Atalanta, before the game of Verona. I told you what is important now is not only qualifying to Champions League, but the way how. Guys, you know that this season, if we are looking at a bit the evaluation, if we need to do the sum today, well, it's tough. From a financial point of view, 11 million missed for going to the next stage of Champions League, 8.3 million euro missed to not reach actually the next, or actually not having the possibility to win the Coppa Italia, because if you won the Coppa Italia, that's a bit more than 8 million that you could reach. 6.4 if not winning the Supercoppa in Riyadh. If you're calculating that as already a loss of 25 million euro. And they make the difference already. If you don't qualify to Champions League but you go in Europa League, the minimum that you are losing, is 40 million euro. So that could be already a loss of 65 million euro. But I know that if we are speaking to Juventini, that's not that much what they care about. Finance is not what they care about. They want to see the field. Well, if you are looking at the museum of today, what do we put there as images? Well, it's not something to be proud about. It's actually more a nightmare, 4 nightmare pictures. That elimination against Milan, where you were winning 1-0 in Supercoppa, and the way how you all remember these own goals of Federico Gatti, for example, that penalty given by Locatelli. PSV elimination, I don't want to come back on it. The one of Empoli, disaster. They were writing history, and they wrote history in our home. And then the Juve-Atalanta, also there, a historical loss for the Juventini. Total disaster. On top of that, of course, we just spoke about it. The players that are losing values because Douglas Luiz, a Koopmeiners, and Nico Gonzalez. It is because Giuntoli, it is because of Thiago Motta, they lost value. And also, that's also one of the big points that Juventus is evaluating. These players, we try them, they are not performing at Juve. Even if we are speaking about one of the best midfielders of Premier League in the last 2 seasons, we are speaking about one of the best midfielders, if not the best midfielder of Serie A last seasons. We are speaking about Koopmeiners, and then a player that, according to all of us, probably that's a huge big mistake of Giuntoli, especially the price that you're paying for Nico Gonzalez. But even for the decision that you are taking, Nico Gonzalez cannot be the one that we saw until this season. Nico Gonzalez that is way lower than all the season that he did with Fiorentina in Italy. Total disaster. So Thiago Motta is risking, and the first big, huge turnaround could possibly be in Firenze this weekend before the international break. Thiago Motta could already be out. If he's not performing well, if he's not winning, he could be out. I told you already a lot of times, I'm not for a big change during the season. I don't really like that, except if you have already the solution for the future. But I cannot deny the fact that it's true. If we don't win against Fiorentina this weekend in their home, we are risking really a lot, especially because Palladino is a coach that I believe since 2020, or I don't remember, 2002. 2002, in the last 16 games, they lost 8 games. So it's one of the worst results of Fiorentina since 20 years. The total disaster. So also they are absolutely not in a great moment. So if you are not able to beat Fiorentina, it would be a big one. Now, when I'm telling you I'm not a big fan of changing coaches, because if you're looking at the history, and I'm an older fan, so I have a bit that experience. I remember Milan changing coaches after winning the Scudetto and losing the Scudetto with Allegri. They changed with Seedorf, Inzaghi, Mihajlovic, Brocchi, Montella, Gattuso, Giampaolo. 8 years out of Champions League in all these seasons. They played a 7th, 10th position, a total disaster. Inter did the same after winning the triplete with Mourinho, Benitez, Leonardo, Gasperini, Ranieri, Stramaccioni, Mazzarri, Mancini, De Boer, Pioli, Spalletti. 5 years out of the Champions League, total disaster. So that's what I'm telling you. Changing the coach only is not enough. Will never be the only solution. And that's what we saw also here with Juventus, where in the last 2 years, a lot of people were telling us, change Allegri, change Allegri, change Allegri. Only changing the coach will solve Juventus. You will see how Vlahovic will perform. You will see how Juventus will play. You will see that we will compete again. At the end, it even went worse. That doesn't mean that Allegri did good, because that's a huge, big nuance. What Thiago Motta is doing now with the team, what Giuntoli is doing now with the team, what the players are doing with Juventus this season doesn't change the fact that last year was not a great year. The year before was not a great year. But changing the coach only is not enough. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Bonucci off the field. He speaks too much anyway. But yesterday he said something true. Juve, it depends what you want to do. with your future. If you have patience, you need to insist with Thiago Motta. If you have no patience, you need to go for Antonio Conte. Now, I don't want to go with the names Motta or Conte, but I think it's extremely important now to understand what the future will look like for Juve. What is the idea of what they want to do? Because we already did it in the past. We believed in a project. We wanted to change the DNA of Juve, going for Maurizio Sarri. We won the Scudetto even in a total disaster year with COVID. And we changed. We changed because it was not looking like Juve. It was not close to Juve. It was not the DNA of Juve because Sarri was not matching the philosophy of the coach that Juventus wanted. And we gave up on that we play football project. Even Sarri said it, I needed to stop with my own ideas because here at Juve, or I continued that way and it would have been a total collapse and I would have been the first one to lose the Scudetto, or I adapted to Juve and probably we would have seen something else. And that's what Maurizio Sarri did. Then we went with Pirlo and we went back to our roots to Massimiliano Allegri and it didn't work out. So what do we want to do? We want to go with a vision of football, with a vision of young players, with a vision of entertaining football, to see some patterns, and then you need to continue. I'm not saying with Motta, or with coaches that have the same philosophy. I'm speaking about the Farioli, I'm speaking maybe or about the De Zerbi, I'm speaking about Thiago Motta that you chose, that you need to confirm. I'm speaking about some coaches in that way of playing, maybe a Xavi. Not big fans of these coaches. Farioli is a good one. Or you go and you change totally the project, but that would be extremely sad because that means that you try something, you don't believe in it, and you go back to something totally different. What can happen if we lose against Fiorentina? Well, we could possibly go, or the next one, since if it's not Fiorentina, I told you that the next 10 games are really a test for Thiago. He could be out immediately, or the next one, or the next one, or the next one. Well, caretaker, that's the first solution. Who are on the list of the caretakers? There are two names, basically. The one of Brambilla, that is the coach of the next gen, that did really well, that is doing really well. Or Magnanelli, that is also a coach that was with the first team also last year in the staff of Max Allegri, that is coaching now the Primavera, so the under 20. So, Juve, you don't have to invest. It's coaches that they know that they are there for 10 games and they will go back to their team or maybe somewhere else. And then there is that third name, the one of Tudor, that a lot of people are thinking is just like that. Tudor. Let's go for Tudor. It's easy, Beppe. Tudor is the name that you need to go for because he will say yes because he loves Juve. Tudor changed in his philosophy, in his way of approaching after saying yes to Juve to become the vice coach of Pirlo, how that experience went after Udinese, after Marseille. We know that Igor Tudor changed a lot. Taking Juve for 2 months, it's not easy, except, of course, if you actually make sure that you say to Tudor, look, if you qualify to Champions League, you stay also next year. And that's a different scenario. But is that what we want? I am not sure. That's why Juventus is also taking into consideration to continue with Motta or maybe taking a caretaker with the one that we have at home to maybe already start working on the future. And there we have 5 names at the moment. The one that is actually going down is the one of Mancini. Mancini is was a name. Why? Because he's free, because he wants to come back in Italy. He wants again to be visible. Mancini is one of experience, already won in Italy, won in Premier League, is one with experience, won the Euro with Italy, by the way, but he's going down in that ranking of top 5, top 4. It's a new name, a new entry that we already touched upon a few weeks ago, but now he starts to be back on that list, is the one of Xavi. Why? Because he's a coach with a philosophy of play, because he comes from Barcelona. Thiago Motta has been also taken for one of these reasons, because he came from Barcelona Youth Academy, so Xavi could be another one. Yesterday, the name of Pioli came, and he's also finishing on the front page of Tutto Sport, if I'm not wrong, or Gazzetta dello Sport. Anyway, I think it's Tutto Sport. Pioli. Why? Because we know it in Saudi Arabia every single week. They are saying, maybe you will be out next week. Maybe you will be out next week. But this time it's more Pioli that asks information more than Juve asking to Pioli, what about this situation? So Pioli could be one. I hope not. I really hope not, because that would be, according to me, not a good choice. Conte is equal position on the second spot. depending what he will do with Napoli. Will he win the Scudetto or not? If he doesn't win the Scudetto, he's gone. If he wins the Scudetto, depending what De Laurentiis will do with Manna on the calciomercato, because we know it, Conte is not an easy one to actually please, and we know it. That's a big debate at Juve. If you go with Antonio Conte, we know that probably you will have to change the entire team, something that we already did. And then you have the one that is going up and up and up, especially after that 4-0 in your home, is the name of Gasperini. Giampiero Gasperini could be the next one. The link between the three coaches that I just told you, Gasperini, Conte, and Pioli, 3X from Juve. Pioli never coached Juve, but he was a player from Juve. Gasperini, Conte, we know it. They were players, they coach Juve. Gasperini, the youth academy, Conte, the first team. So maybe Juve is starting to realize that also there, we need some Juventinità back, something that we were missing. Let's see. One thing is sure, at the moment, as we speak today, Antonio Conte, Gasperini could potentially not be the possible coach for the Club World Cup or entering at the end of this season. For what reason? Because the contracts are valid until the 30th of June, but Italy is starting to work on it to possibly also free up coaches on the 1st of June. Would be interesting, because I'm not sure that Thiago Motta will be the coach in the Club World Cup, and going with a Brambilla and with Magnanelli would probably not be the best solution also in terms of image. I think that Juventus, they want to go for a new coach from the 1st of June to go there immediately to play the Club World Cup on the 19th of June. Is it only because of Motta that we are in that situation? No, it's not only because of Motta, but the next things that I really want to speak about are: what about the Champions League qualification? What about the coach? What about the existing team? What about the mercato in entry? And what about the management? So we have a lot of things to say also, because a lot of you told me, Beppe, what about the management? What about Giuntoli? You didn't speak a lot about Giuntoli. Guys, there are mistakes. There are a lot of mistakes from Giuntoli, from the management, and we need to speak about it. Guys, last question for the people that are here before I close the video. Today is the day where officially Paul Pogba can play again football. I always said, unfortunately, that it was a good choice for Juve to stop, but how good he would have been for Juve in this moment, I don't know. We will never know. Let me know what you would have done with Pogba. Forza Juve.